Rise of Skywalker will be out soon, and I'd like to watch The Last Jedi again, but I don't like The Last Jedi. So is there anything we can do to edit The Last Jedi to make it into a more watchable format than the original release? So what is actually wrong with The Last Jedi?
Besides everything!
Yes, besides everything, what is wrong? Well, I think the main problems that The Last Jedi has is all of the ways in which characters act in inconsistent ways. We get the infamous Poe Dameron "your mama" joke from the start of the film. We then have a Luke on the island and he decides to do a bit of slapstick comedy and throw the lightsaber over his shoulder. We get Luke milking some sort of animal and slobbering milk all over his face. When Luke decides to finally train Rey, he can't do that seriously and slaps her around with a branch. We get Kylo Ren randomly with his shirt missing. We have Yoda kicking and screaming like an idiot, not in the manner in which a Force ghost Yoda should be acting. So on and on and on, there are these little things that I think are small enough that they could be edited out without ruining each of the scenes they're in, or the entire scenes could be removed, and that would be better than what we actually get with The Last Jedi. So again, there is no way to rewrite the script, there is no way to reshoot the film, but can we do these minor edits that a competent editor really should have done and make The Last Jedi into something that is more watchable than the original edit? Let's take a look at the "Your Mama" joke from Poe Dameron. Can we do anything to improve this scene, which an actual professional editor should have done in the first place? So the first thing we're going to look for here is, can we just chop the whole thing out together? Can we just get rid of the whole scene? Where is a good place before the scene takes place, before Poe actually starts really talking to Hux? Chop out from that point, and then find some sort of point after the little quote-unquote joke has happened. Chop it out after that, and see how that runs, see if that edit makes any sense, see if we've lost anything that's actually needed, or see if it's actually better than having it in. So ideally we're looking for somewhere where sound isn't an issue. We want to cut where there was already a cut made by the editor, and then we want to have somewhere that the music isn't noticeably having to change between sound levels, and that there's no sound effects and no talking going on at the same time, or else we have to mess around with sound, which isn't that big a deal, but a little bit easy not to touch that. So here's the start of the scene, Leia's talking away, and we want to find somewhere to do our cut in 3, 2, right there. So we want to cut away before that there. He was in the airplane or he's in the X-Wing, and all of this talking here, we'll speed this up as we go. This is what we're going to get rid of. The whole thing, his whole conversation he's having with Hux. We're not interested in any of this at all. We don't want the silly looks. Oh my god, look at his face. We don't need this. And then we want to cut it back in 3, 2, right there. So right there is the end of our cut, and let's take a look at the result of that edit.
Just for the record, Commander Dameron, I'm with the droid on this one.
Thank you for your support, General.
Happy babies.
BB-8, punch it!
Okay, so that was it. That has chopped it all out. We've basically got him saying happy beeps to BB-8, and then he goes, let's punch it, and you get him basically accelerating away. So everything's been cut out. The sound effects don't really need to be messed around there, and none of the music really needs to change. There's no dialogue to fix up, so it's a really easy place to chop it. One minor problem is that it's got the little progress thing that shows his booster charging up, but the way we've cut it now, we missed out on the charging section of that. So we've lost a little bit of what you might call the tension, but I don't think anyone would describe that scene as being tense. But we don't see that it actually has to charge up and it's charged. It just jumps to being fully charged at the end. But a minor problem, I think that is vastly better than what we had originally. But I don't think the joke itself is actually what's wrong with the scene. I know people say, oh, it's the "your mama" joke. That's what's in it, but I don't think that's actually what's wrong. Okay, here's Poe Dameron from The Force Awakens.
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first?
The old man gave it to you.
It's just very hard to understand you with all the...
Search him.
Poe Dameron's character jokes in the face of stress. He's about to get taken away and to be tortured, and he's joking around. Here, he's about to go and take on a dreadnought or a fleet or whatever all by himself, and he's joking around. Yeah, the joke wasn't funny, but I don't think the problem is that Poe Dameron tried a "your mama" joke. Let's take a look at Hux in this scene. Hux starts off with a big speech. This is similar to near the end of The Force Awakens. He loves the sound of his own voice, and I'm evil, I'm evil, I'm evil.
Hi, I'm holding for General Hux. This is Hux.
And then he goes into a second little rant. Nothing wrong so far, I don't think.
Okay, I'll hold.
Hello?
Hello? Yep, I'm still here.
Can he hear me?
Can he hear me? He can. And look at that face. Look at it. So that is in no way the way that Hux should be reacting. So if he wants to have a little rant at the start, that's fine. That's in character with him. This now is ridiculous, okay? A competent editor should cut this out. This part of the scene is what is wrong with the scene, okay? Look at his face. This is the bad guy, or I don't know, the third biggest bad guy, the second biggest bad guy. This is who is chasing down the fleet. We're going to be worried when he catches up with us. Look at him. This is the start of the film. This is what's wrong with the film. All of the little stupid things like this that happen over and over and over again that make no sense.
He can.
With an H, skinny guy, kind of pasty.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I mean, who cares if he can't hear him? That is not the way that this so-called evil guy should be acting. Okay, terrible writing, terrible editing, terrible acting. It just should not exist. Here's Kylo Ren from the ridiculous scene where he's not got a shirt on, but let's look at Kylo Ren's reaction when someone's trying to be a little bit silly with him.
Do you have something, a cowl or something you can put on?
That's it. Nothing. Doesn't even entertain her imbecility. He just stands there, has a bit of a stare on. That is it. That is 100% perfect. That's how Kylo Ren treats idiots. Okay, now how should General Hux behave? Well, here is how General Hux behaves in the actual Last Jedi. Let's see, how does General Hux behave when someone's being an imbecile towards him?
About his mother.
Open fire!
He just says open fire. I mean, he's angry, which is fine, but he just goes kill him. Okay, he realizes he's been messed with and he says kill him. The problem is he's not smart enough to realize he was messed with straight away, and he pulled a stupid face and I can hear you, can you hear me? Why is all of that there? So I don't think there's anything wrong with Poe Dameron saying, oh, I've got a message here about your mother. Straight away, bang, kill him, shoot him. That's how he should act, and that is how he acted, but it had all this ridiculousness before it. So we want to cut back when Poe Dameron says, look, I can't hold forever, but slightly earlier to that he says, okay, I'll hold. So I think that makes a lot more sense if we keep the okay, I'll hold, and then I can't hold forever, rather than just having him say, I can't hold forever. So that means Hux has his first rant, Poe Dameron then says, okay, I'll hold, Hux has his second rant, we then cut away, and then we cut back when he says, I can't hold forever. Now, just after that, we get this part.
I believe he's tooling with you, sir.
About his mother.
Open fire!
So we want his reaction straight away that, shoot him, kill him, whatever, open fire. But we don't want the little fella pointing out to him that he's being tooled with. That just makes Hux look like he's too dumb to understand what's happening. So we want to cut back to where Poe actually says, I got a message about your mother, but we don't want the bit that says he's tooling with you, but we do want the bit where he says, open fire. Unfortunately, right where I'd want to put the cut in, they've got the camera refocusing, or they're doing some sort of digital shenanigans to patch together two different scenes to make it look like there's no cut there, and everyone's head's getting fatter and thinner, and so when I put the cut in, it's very noticeable that I'm cutting there, so I have to just muck around with it a little bit more to actually make it a little bit more streamlined. So let's see what the scene looks like with less of it removed than the entire thing.
Blip, blappity, bloop.
Attention! This is Commander Poe Dameron of the Republic Fleet. I have an urgent communique for General Hux.
Patch him through. This is General Hux of the First Order. The Republic is no more. Your fleet are rebel scum and war criminals.
Tell your precious princess there will be no terms. There will be no surrender.
Hi, I'm holding for General Hux.
This is Hux. You and your friends are doomed. We will wipe your filth from the galaxy.
Look, I can't hold forever. If you reach him, tell him Leia has an urgent message for him. About his mother.
Open fire!
BB-8, punch it!
And that is the scene fixed. We've kept most of the scene, but now Hux no longer acts so much like an idiot and still has some sort of threat behind him. It's not starting the film off on what I feel was the wrong foot. There's another scene a little bit after this where Snoke comes in and uses force powers and makes Hux kind of fall on his head a bit, but the noise that they have him making, I think, is just silly. Here it is. But there really isn't any way good you can cut that scene to really get rid of anything. He ends up on his knees. There's no real way to get rid of it. He also mentions about how, oh, we've got them caught on a string, or whatever, they're tied on a string so they can't escape. Then later on we have this scene.
Tied on a string indeed.
And that might not make much sense if we don't get Hux saying it earlier, but it may also. But because of that, I don't think there's really anything you can easily do to edit out that part, unfortunately. Now, here's a photograph of 3 people. You may be familiar with who these 3 people are. The person in the middle is someone that Kathleen Kennedy should hire. She's been retired for a very long time. I believe she's still alive. But since George Lucas no longer owns Lucasfilm, he probably can't keep his ex-wife out from working there. And since Kathleen Kennedy likes hiring females, there is a female she should hire. Okay, this person here in the middle there, that is Marcia Lucas, or I think she's probably got a new last name now. But she was Marcia Lucas, and she got an Oscar for editing Star Wars. If you're not familiar with the work she did, one of the biggest contributions she did to Star Wars A New Hope was she came up with the whole idea of having the Death Star going to shoot at the Yavin 4 base. The original script and the original cut didn't have that at all. The X-Wings and Y-Wings just flew off to attack the Death Star. The Death Star was not on the way to blow them up, so there was no tension at the end. There was no worrying about whether it was going to have time to shoot or not. All of those scenes were shot later on, or they used pre-existing scenes of where the Death Star prepares to fire on Alderaan or Dantooine or whatever. So that was just a little example of something she did to actually make Star Wars work. I could only imagine the film wouldn't have been anywhere near as good without that. Get her on board, Kathleen Kennedy. Go get Marcia Lucas. See if she can fix up these problems. So next I'll take a look at tackling Luke with throwing away the lightsaber, and I'll see what can we do about not having him throw the lightsaber away in some sort of ridiculous slapstick manner.